there. My name is Alistair Rees. Most people call me Al. I'm the product manager here at GeoScienceWorld, and I'm responsible for making sure that the website that hosts all the journals and books that Laura mentioned there is up and running. I'm responsible for making sure that bugs get fixed and any new feature enhancements are properly spec'd out, and working with our vendor to make this website as useful to our users as possible. The way I'm going to run this training this morning, I'm going to do it in two parts. In the first part, I'm going to focus on some of the key features and functionalities of what we term the front end, which is the website that most users would recognize. And then in the latter part of the presentation, I'm going to do some looking at the institutional administrator dashboard, which would be specifically for librarians and people who work as institutional administrators. So when I get to that point, if you're not one of those people, do feel free to drop off and carry on with your day. Well, you can stay if that's of interest as well. So assuming everything is working correctly, you should be able to see the homepage of GeoScienceWorld. And as you can see from up here in the right-hand corner, I'm already authenticated into the site. And I'm authenticated with our GSW test institution, as well as an individual account here. In this case, one of my colleagues, I've used her login because there's some features later on that I need her particular credentials for. When I'm authenticated as an institution, you will see the institution name up here, and then there's this little drop down which pops open a little scroll bar, and it will show you, hopefully, if there is an institutional logo in a tool that we call SiteMaster, that will display here, as well as the option to sign out of the institutional authentication. In the event that an institution is a member of a consortia, what you would see in this box is actually just the consortia name and then the institution name. That's due to the size restrictions of the box. So the institutional logo won't actually display there. Looking across the top here at our global navigation, we do have a central journals page, which when you click that, takes you to a page where you can see some of the features there, and then there are links to all 47 of the journals that are available through the site. You can choose to browse by journal title, or you can choose to browse by publisher. So those are options for getting to your chosen journal. We have a similar page for the books site, where obviously we don't list all the books, but we do have a list here of the ebook publishers. Each of these links goes to what we call a society page. All of the publishers have their own kind of mini homepage on the site. And if you click all books, you go to a search results page that has been pre-filtered just by the book content. So we're not going to dig into that right now. We then have a GeoRef drop down. We have some further options when it comes to GeoRef, particularly around viewing GeoRef terms in their thesaurus. And we're going to come to those a little bit later on and look at what we do on the GeoRef side. We then have a list of publishers. We have a link to OpenGeoSci, which is our map-based search. That's also something that we'll look at in the context of search results in a moment. Then we have a tool called Citation Manager. Again, we'll come to that. And then we have our help button with some fairly standard information. So as researchers and users of the site, probably the most important and regularly used feature is the search bar, which we have here. And if I'm just going to jump back for the moment to the home page. And so if I were to do a search from this home page, right now it would just show me all the content that is available on GeoSci. So I'm going to do a search for nice. And so pull up a search results page, which we'll go into in more detail as we go along. But I just want to show you some of the options that are available with this quick search bar. So that's if I search from the top level site of the site. If I go to one of our societies, for example, the Geological Society of America, this is their society page. Up here I now have two options. I can search by all content or all content from the Geological Society of America. Yep. Sorry. So if I run my search again, you'll see we have far fewer results, and all of the content has been faceted down to journals that belong to the Geological Society of America. Now, there is a third option here, and that's if I go to a particular journal, and we'll stay with the Geological Society of America theme. We'll go to geology, and you can see I can search within geology. I can also then search all content on the site and also all the content by the society. So that's the same as that GSA search at the society level. And if I do my search here, again, you'll see that the content is all just from the article, the journal Geology. It's already pre-filtered. So that's our quick search. I'm going to come back up to our homepage. And I'm going to run my search again. I'm going to talk very quickly through the search results page. Now, we use a technology called Solr to run our search. And it is a fairly standard setup of Solr. So if you're familiar with that software, you know some of the functionalities that you can use here. So when you come to the search results page, the first thing you'll see up here is the usual information about your search term. You have the option to save your search or share your search. To save your search, you must be logged into an individual account, and so you can give your search a name. The default is the search term that you used, and you can also set it up to receive an alert when new items match your search. Basically, whenever something new comes up that would match the search nice, you'll get an email alert telling you that there's new content available. So that's a really useful way for tracking terms that are of interest. Share search is fairly standard, going to the usual social media outlets, as well as being able to email a link to your search results to your colleagues. We then have the standard pagination, and as we scroll further down, each of the results shows us the content type, which relates to the format facet over here in the left-hand side. We have the content title, the publisher, the date of publication. Then we have some information. Usually it's the abstract. As this is a GeoRef record, we've got bounding coordinates and some other information. And then we have a button to add the content to Citation Manager. And I'm going to go ahead and press that. You can see it grays it out when it's done. I'm going to go ahead and actually use some of the filters over here in the left-hand side to filter and show different search results, and because they do differ slightly by what's available. So here we have the journal article. Again, we have the article title. This icon here tells us what the authorization status of the article is for the user. So this user has access to all the content, so they get a little green check mark that tells you that you have access to this particular piece of content. Have the journal, the publisher, all the relevant citation information, and then the beginnings of the where in the content you can find the search term, and the search term is highlighted. And we then show the first three images from the article with an option to scroll that out further to see all the images that are part of the article that we're looking at. That could be, you click it again and it draws it back up. We then have a couple more options down here. We can view the abstract from the search results page. We can download the PDF straight from search results, and again, we can add to Citation Manager. So we'll do that. Now, if I was not signed in and I didn't have access to this article, there would be an additional button in between PDF and Add to Citation Manager called Purchase, and that would allow me to trigger a pay-per-view transaction. So that's the journal article search result. Just going to show just the book chapter because that's most of the content that people will be actually searching for. Very similar to the search to the journal article, we have the content type, the chapter title, the authors. If there are editors, we would have authors and editors, and then the book from which the chapter comes, the series, publisher. Very similar information as in the journal article. And again, we have abstract option, the PDF, and we're going to go ahead and add that to Citation Manager as well. Talking about facets and filters, we will just click that off. We'll come back to this full search, and we're going to talk about the left-hand rail here. We have the option to update the search. I'm going to add a term. So as well as being interested in nice, I'm interested in Lewisian nice, and I can update my search. And as you can see, this has now been updated so that it's Lewisian nice. This is not a sequential search, so it doesn't necessarily, it's looking for those two particular terms within the content, not necessarily together. And we can scroll down and we can see some additional facets down here. Again, we can facet by the format of the content, by the article type. So if we're looking for research articles or book reviews, that would be over here on the left-hand side. We can also filter down by the journal. So if I wanted to filter just to the Scottish Journal of Geology, I could just click that, and the search automatically updates to show me the additional information. And if I uncheck that, carry on with our search results, we can also filter by publisher and by section. So if you know the section heading from the TOC, you're able to filter down by that. And then we can filter where available by georef subject. So when you do a search, all of the georef subjects will display in this left-hand side, and then you can use these arrows to open the different levels of the thesaurus, and you can see the number of results that relate to each georef thesaurus term there. We can also filter down by georef categories, the era and the period, as well as the epoch and age. And again, we can see the number of results that are being returned for each of these particular facets. We have a book series filter, and then finally down at the bottom we can filter by date range. So our database goes from 1666 to the present day, and so you're able to filter by any date within that, and then by availability, and this really means by the access type. So if you're looking for specifically open access content, you just click the checkbox and it automatically updates. And same for free content. Unlocked, as I said, does mean that you already have a subscription to that content and it's available to you. And then we have content that's available for purchase, which has a little shopping trolley icon. That is the search results page. And at this point, I'm going to ask Laura if there are any questions.
If you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the box. But Al, I think I don't see any right now, but go ahead.
So I actually have a question. I do see a question here from Marco. If the subscriber has access to georef via another vendor, such as Elsevier, how does the filter work? So to actually access georef on our site, you have to have access to georef through GSW. Some of the filters will function if you're not authenticated, but it works slightly differently. So you would need to have a GSW subscription to georef.
I have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see them. Why don't georef records in search results display the journal name, volume, page instead of just the publisher?
That was a decision that was taken during the migration, during the build. So I wasn't at GSW during the build, so I'm not entirely sure why that is. That is an interesting question, though, and it's definitely something that I'm going to consider as a feature enhancement and look into. So I'm going to take that one away with me, because that does sound like a valuable feature.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question. Are you linking to relevant data sets?
I'm not entirely sure what the question means there.
We might have, Mary, maybe you can expand on that, and
Yeah.
we'll get back to you.
Yep.
Does GSW support open URL for items that we don't have access to through GSW?
Yes, we do, and we'll get there when we demo the institutional administration tools. So yes, is the answer there. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. So I'm going to continue on. So having looked at quick search, I'm going to come to our advanced search page. And with the advanced search page, here you can actually build a more custom search to really kind of dig into what it is you're looking for. And we have several forms of search on this page, so it can be a little daunting, I guess is the right word at first. But one thing to keep in mind is that so let's look at this advanced. So we have these pre-filters up here to content that you have access to, or all content. Then by the content type, we then have what we call query builder. We then have a bounding coordinate search. We can search by date range and publication. And then here we have the search button. Now this search button here runs the search against all of these search options above. So you don't have to use each of these features to run the search, but it will check against all of them if you really want to get exceedingly granular with your searching. So as you can see here, we have the option to search by journal article, book chapter, georef record. Those are set by default. And we also have the options to include a full journal and images. Those are additional options there. And then we have the query builder, and query builder really just lets us create a more in-depth search term. So let's, for example, bringing back our search terms of, we'll go the right way around this time. So if we want to search for the term Lewisian and the term nice, in the titles of these content types. So I can do that. I do have a range of other fields that can be selected against for this, so I could just look in the abstract, the affiliations, wherever it is we're looking for. And I'm going to stick with titles for the time being. And we do have the and or not operators in here. So we just come down here, we'll run our search. So we're looking for content that has Lewisian and nice in the title. And you can see here that we have our search results. Now I want to modify my advanced search. So this will bring me back to the advanced search page with my search terms pre-populated. And I want to add a group to my query builder. So I'm looking for Lewisian nice in the title, or we can put in the same search terms here. So I'm looking for it in the title, and I'm looking for it in the abstract. So I can. Okay. If I want to make sure that I have an exact match against my term, I can add that here. And again, I can run my search. This brings me back more results, obviously, as I've increased the scope of what it is I'm looking for. But I'm still looking for stuff, so I can go back to modify my advanced search, and again, everything is still here. But if I decide that I really want to search for a particular geographical area, I can then go ahead and I can draw a box on our little map here. Let's just do most of the British Isles, a little bit of Belgium. And that box will then populate coordinates here. And I can run my search. And now all of my results, they're all GeoRef records because they're all relying on coordinates associated with the piece of content in the XML. So here we have a much smaller selection, and everything is limited within those coordinates. Now, we mentioned a little bit about Open GeoSci. I can then decide that I want to see the results on the map. And here we have our map, and we have pins with article titles in there, where there are multiple articles within a given geographical area. We get these little bubbles, and we can scroll further in. Now, when I look at this map here, so scrolling further down, I get the same search results as I got originally. I've changed the bounds of the map. So now if I want to update the search results, I have to click limit search results to map bounds, and that will then update that. It doesn't happen automatically. And now we're in the middle of the sea. Okay, so we can keep popping down. When you have this particular experience here, is that all of these pins are actually that one little point there on the island of North Uist, and this is Google behavior, just making this spiral. So again, I can limit my search results, and here we have my 30 articles that share the same bounding coordinates. So that's what we're doing with map-based search and OpenGeoSci. I can now actually go back to regular search results, and we'll see those 30 now just in a normal search results page. But maybe I want to modify my advanced search a little bit more. I can keep going. I can add as many additional groups and additional terms as I need, obviously understanding that the more granular I get, the fewer results will be returned. When it's time to move on to a new search, I just click the clear search button, and everything is restored to normal. Some additional search features that we have, you're able to search by georef limits, so you could choose the language that you're interested in, the bibliographic level, content type, and then we have a range of search tools to allow you to find specific content, whether that's by title, citation, DOI, or georef category. So that's the advanced search page. I'm going to stop there and see if there are any questions, Laura.
Al, Mary followed up on her data set question. She's referring to the sets that researchers are putting into repositories in support of the published literature, especially in support of NSF and other federal granting agency requirements. Are you able to answer that?
I'm not able to answer that question, but I will go back and find out, and then I'll reach out to Mary independently with an answer for that.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
We do have the box content I can access to only limits the access to books. It's my understanding that by subscribing to GSW, the institution gets access to all the journals. So I think that depends. If you have a journal subscription, you would have access to the journal.
Yeah. So what? So it's not for sure that you necessarily have access to all content. For example, if you do subscribe to GSW, you do have access to all the journals, but you might not have access to all the books. So if you just want to see content that you do have access to, it's just a way of kind of pre-filtering out things that you don't have a subscription to. So it's there for the wide range of different customers that we serve. It does also include, it will include any open access and free content regardless of subscriptions, because that obviously is available to all users. So does that answer that question?
Thanks. And I do understand that to answer Mary's question, we do link to supplements and funders.
Yes, we do. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the tool that I've mentioned a couple of times here called Citation Manager. In the search results, you've seen me add a couple of items to Citation Manager. And this is a tool that allows users to create their own bibliographies or a set of articles that might be of interest to download citations for. One thing that's really important to keep in mind is that everything that is in Citation Manager is not saved from session to session. So if you start a new session, then this content is not going to be here. At the moment, there is no functionality for saving lists of citations to personal accounts. So just keep that in mind. So we do recommend, as we say here, that before you leave your session, download your citations and store it away in your citation and reference tools. So when you add something to the Citation Manager, it will display here. We'll have the content title with a link to the content itself. We then have the authors, citation information, and the DOI. We have a couple of options that we can use here. We can kind of select all or none. We can turn them on. We can just select a couple. Let's say I'm not actually interested in this particular article. It doesn't seem to meet what I'm looking for. So I'm going to remove that one from the Citation Manager. We're just down to 2. These are the ones I want. So I'm going to download selected. And this will download the citation to the whichever standard format is my preference. Personally, I prefer Mendeley. And then I get it triggers the download for a file. So I just save that. And then I would insert that into my reference manager. Now, that one file contains all of the citations that have been included in Citation Manager. So whether it's 2 or 20, they'll all be there. And so once I'm done with that, I can then move on, having downloaded all of that. We do have some plans to enhance the functionality around Citation Manager. That's kind of on our 2020 roadmap. But as I said, it's a very useful tool for creating bibliographies and reading lists for further research or for your students, whatever it is you're looking to do. So coming over then to the GeoRef side of things, from this drop-down we can go into the GeoRef subfolder, go into the advanced search. That just brings us back into the advanced search page that we've already looked at. Then we can go through our thesaurus. So we can look at geographic terms, we can look at subject terms, and we can look at geologic time terms. I'm going to stick with geographic terms for the time being, and I'm going to go and take a look at the term Atlantic Ocean Islands. And you can see that this brings up a GeoRef term page, which includes the name of the term and then all the information that is housed in the GeoRef thesaurus about this term. And then we have search results that are directly related to that term. Now, this is the current view. This will actually be changing in the very near future. So all of this information is going to be displaying over here in the right-hand rail. So next time you come to it, if it looks different, Don't worry, there's not a bug, it's not broken. We've just moved all the information to the right rail to make it a little more immediate that you can use the search results down here. So that's how we use the GeoRef thesaurus. As I say, you can also go by subject terms and geologic time terms. And all of these terms are used in our related content widgets on content pages, which we're going to have a quick look at in a moment. But before we go there, are there any questions about GeoRef or about Citation Manager?
I think you can go ahead and move on.
Great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of give you a quick look at our article pages and our chapter pages. So I'm going to go to the Scottish Journal of Geology. And so this is a landing page for a journal. We have all our basic information. We have the 9 most recently loaded articles here. And then we have most read, most cited widget down at the bottom. And then this space here is it's a self-serve, and societies will include whatever information they're looking to put in there. So we have here the information about the current issue. We want to view the issue. And, okay, just take its time a little bit while I'm waiting for that to load. There we go. So just a quick mention about the archive link here. If you click on this link, you'll be able to see all the available issues divided out by year and volume. So here we have a very standard TOC. The issues bar at the top allows you to navigate through the available issues so that you can find the appropriate issue that you're looking for. Then we have article pages here. Here, again, we have an abstract drop-down, which allows you to view the abstract just from the issue page, a link to view the article, download the PDF, or again, from here you can add Citation Manager. If you just click on the title, you get taken to the article page. Now, this is our standard article page, which is a split screen. And over here on the left-hand side, we have the main text of the article. So we have all the article information, authors, citation, the history, any funding that is mentioned in the XML. If you click on a username, it will give you affiliation information there. And this little icon means that they're a corresponding author. Over in the right-hand side, we have a series of tabs. The first tab, and this is the tab that is opened automatically, is for figures and tables. And then we have some contents, which is navigation throughout the article. Then we have the GeoRef tab, and that tells us what terms have been assigned to this piece of content, the bounding coordinates, and then there's a link to view the full GeoRef record for this article. We then have references and our related content widget. And because this is a very new article, there's not much showing up in here. We have these links go out to Google Scholar and Crossref to find articles that cite this article. And you can also sign up for an alert about this article. So if there's a new version loaded, you'll get an alert to that effect. Within the body of the text, we have from the XML, so for example, this is a reference. When I click on that reference, it will open the References tab and scroll the user to the appropriate reference. There we go. And when I have So when I have a figure reference in the text that is linked, again, it automatically scrolls the user to that image in the figures and tables tab. So all these tabs are, they can be manipulated manually. They're also manipulated through the references and links in the XML. So that's basic. That is also basically the same for the chapter pages. They share the same layout and the same functionality. Now, on the toolbar, one difference between an article and a chapter is that for articles we have a standard view. For chapters we don't, and I'll come back to standard view in a moment. But here we have the toolbar that allows us to download the PDF. We can download a citation file or add this article to Citation Manager. We can share through various social medias, outlets, and also email content out to colleagues. And then we have a selection of tools, which basically is just a get permissions option. Now, if I click the standard view button, this will reload the article page in the standard view, which is your classic scroll through, all the images are in line with the options to view the image as a larger version, which opens up as a new tab, or you can download a slide as a PowerPoint for later use. And the toolbar becomes sticky in this view, so it stays at the top of your browser once you get past a certain point scrolling. And then over in the right-hand rail, you have your email alerts options and then the GRF information in the right-hand rail. So that's the content pages. Any questions about those, Laura?
No, not yet, but please feel free to type in your questions at any point and we will get to them. Thank you.
Yep. I think from a features and functionality perspective, that's broadly us done. I'm going to talk very quickly about one last thing, and that is the options that are available to you as an individual user when you are signed into your personal account. As you can see up here in the right-hand rail, I have my GSW test institution. That tells me I'm institutionally authenticated, but I also have this username here, and that tells me that I am signed in as an individual. And when I'm signed in as an individual, I have a selection of options that I can see about my account. So for example, if I want to go and see the alerts that I've signed up for, and this account hasn't signed up for any alerts. So we have latest issue alerts and early publication alerts. And if I wanted to add, I just click add an alert, and I'm interested in American mineralogists and economic geology. And I signed up for those alerts straight through here. I'm interested in some early publication from geology, for example. And I've signed up for that alert here. I can then go and see my subscriptions. Now, one thing to remember when you're looking at my subscriptions as an individual user, this will only show you your own subscriptions. It will not show you any subscriptions that your institution has. So it's one thing to keep in mind. And then we can see your the profile, any information that you've inserted here. You can see a list of your saved searches. As you can see, we did the nice search earlier. We created this saved search. If I want to rerun the search, I just click nice from here, and it takes me back to the search results page. So I think at that point we've done an overview of the key functionality of the site. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually sign out from these authentication states. As you can see, I then have a sign-in widget over here in the right-hand side, which if I click on it, gives me a range of authentication options, shibboleth or Open Athens, institutional sign-in, a GSW registered sign-in if I'm just someone who uses like pay-per-view through the site. And then we have the librarian administration sign-in, which we'll come to in a moment. But at that point, yeah, are there any questions out there, Laura?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it possible to set up new publication alerts based on authors' names or institutional affiliation?
Not at this moment. So we only have early publication and latest issue alerts at the moment. But that's something that we can take into account for our 2020 roadmap. So I'll take a note of that and see what options are available to us. And if it has value, then for us, then we can look at the possibility of including those.
Thank you. Are there any other questions at this point? I think that's it. Certainly we can get to them. If you think of something later, please keep typing. Thanks.
Okay. So as I said earlier, I was going to do this front end, and then I'm going to move to the institutional administration tools. So if anybody's not interested in institutional admin stuff, feel free to drop on off. I'm, of course, welcome to stay and see this as well, but just a heads up. So as I pointed out, we do have a login link, or a link to the login page for librarian administrators here in the sign-in widget on the front end. So I'm going to assume that everyone can now see the login page for institutional administrators. This is in a tool called SiteMaster, which is how we manage the site and subscriptions and institutions on our side. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. Okay. So this takes us to the institutional summary page for the institution, and you can see here basic information about the institution, the institutional name, our vendor ID, this sort of internal stuff, the details of the institutional administrator. Normally we would have the first name, last name, and their email. The email is the only part of this that is required, but if we have an institutional logo, we upload it here. We can also see information about any consortia that the institution is a member of, whether it's a master or a member. Then we can see the current access options and the current subscriptions. To look into these options further, we have tabs across the top. So if we're going to click the access options, we can see the range of institutional access methods that are available to institutions. We have a master username and password, which we can insert here. And when we look at that front end, we see the drop down says institutional sign-in. That's where you would add an institutional, or that's where you would use an institutional master name and password. We have the ability to have referring URLs. So if you have a link on your own intranet to the GSW site, you would add the location of that link here, and anybody that clicks that link coming from that page would be authenticated. One thing to keep in mind here is that for that functionality to work, the link must be HTTPS. It's not possible to go from HTTP to HTTPS and maintain authentication. So you have to go from HTTPS to HTTPS. Then the most common form of authentication is IP addresses. Here we have the IP addresses have been specified here. We use the standard IP version 4 with the various octets. And to add a new IP, just click the button, enter your details in the octets. If you want information on how to do ranges and wildcards, We have that information here. Now, the proxy checkbox here must never be checked. Even if the IP address that you're using is for something like Easy Proxy, do not go ahead and check that box. That is kind of in there as part of a range of options that happen in the back end, and we don't have a particular setting that this box requires. So it's don't. I can't really stress this enough. Don't check the proxy box, otherwise your IP will not work, and we'll have to sort all that out. You can also then add shibboleth information. And so all of this information is required. We currently support the UK Federation, the Open Athens Federation, the Czech Federation, German, and Ireland. So cancel that. And then we have, as requested earlier, open URL. So yes, you can add your open URL, any link text, and an image in here. We've got some details here about the size of the image. And then that will display in references where you have access to that content. Okay, so those are the access options. At the present for reporting, we're through our vendor Silverchair, we're supporting both Counter version 4 and version 5. So all of those are available at the moment. And if I want to download a Counter report, I can select my date range and then just choose the report that I'm looking for, and it would download as an Excel spreadsheet. Once you've downloaded that spreadsheet and you've opened it in Excel, do please remember to click Enable Editing to see the full information, because for some reason Microsoft Excel hides certain fields until you click Enable Editing. And the same for Counter 5. Select your date range, and then you can download your field here. And we have a range of report fields and filters relating to Counter 5 that's available here. So those are the main functions of the institutional admin dashboard, getting your reports and sorting out your access options, and having your overview there. Any questions related to the dashboard in particular?
We don't have any questions yet. Please feel free to type if you have any.
So while we're waiting for any questions, I'm just going to come back over to the front end, and you can see here we have these institutional sign-in options through the front end. So if you have shibboleth enabled, you come here and select your federation. And then select your institution, and then you get taken over to the login pages for that institution to come back and then be authenticated there. This is where you would add your master name and username if you were using that method. It's kind of an old school method that a lot of institutions don't use anymore, but it's still there and still supported. So those are the institutional sign-in options, and then we have the link down here to sign in via Open Athens. So. Okay. Any questions, Laura?
No, we don't have any questions.
Well,
we're getting close to our time limit. If there's anything else, please go ahead and type in your question to the box and press submit. I think we might be set, Al.
Okay. So if there are no questions, just want to thank everybody for attending the webinar today. It is being recorded. I think Laura mentioned that earlier, and will be available for reference. And I'll be taking away a couple of the comments there.